Chapter 3. By the time he reached his home and walked into the kitchen to wash off the dirt and blood and put cold compresses on the worst of the bruises, Paxton had made up his mind. He was going after his sister, no matter what Arcannon threatened or what sort of obstacles he might encounter. Any further consideration of the matter was beyond discussion, but he would not be so reckless as he was before. He would not himself be caught in a situation where he clearly had no hope of accomplishing anything. The outcome would be different this time around. After he finished washing and applying cold cloths to his battered face, he retired to the front porch to sit and think for a few minutes. Chris was already at risk, and he didn't believe for a minute that her captor would sit down deciding what to do with her. If he was to get to his sister before she was subjected to a whole raft of unpleasantness that could easily result in both physical and emotional damage, he needed to do so sooner rather than later. It was helpful knowing who it was he was looking for and where to find him. Arcannon had told him pointedly enough that he would be at Dark House in the city of Wayford, so all Paxton needed to do was to power up the sprint he had built for himself some years back and fly down there. Someone would be able to give him directions once he arrived, and then he could start looking for Chris in earnest. Simple enough if he didn't dwell too long on the lack of details, like how he was supposed to get her out of Arcannon's establishment and safely out of the city without anyone stopping him. He imagined there would be guards, and probably large numbers of them. On further consideration, it seemed to him that if Arcannon could make him put down that iron bar simply by asking him to do so, he probably possessed magic, even though it was outlawed in the Southland, and any use of it would be dealt with swiftly, no matter what sort of immunity he enjoyed. Arcannon did not seem the type to worry much about authority and acts of law. If he had a way to do so, he would have magic in place to defend his home and business, whether they were separate or not, something he needed to consider when he went in search of Chris. And he would need one thing more. He would need a weapon. Arcannon had told him so, and even if it was simply an embellishment to the dare he had thrown up, it was good advice. After what had happened today, Paxton certainly didn't intend to face the man again without protection. He thought about taking someone with him, but that meant calling on friends for a favor they didn't owe and shouldn't be asked to give, considering the danger. Better he go alone than risk somebody else's life as well as his own. A large armed party would attract more attention anyway. One man keeping to the shadows would have a better chance. Sure, he would. He grimaced at his own facile analysis of the situation, but it was best to stay positive. Pushing aside his doubts, he walked back into the house, dumped the bloodied cloths and cold packs, and changed his clothes. He was in the midst of packing a bag with a few essentials when Jayet appeared in the doorway, calling out to him. He walked out to face her. "You look like you got the worst of whatever happened," she said quietly. "You didn't get her back, did you?" "No," he admitted. "But the matter isn't finished. I know who he is now, and where I can find him. I'm going after him." She nodded. "I thought you would. Have you anyone to help you?" "I think it's better if I do this alone. Other people might get underfoot. I would have to worry about protecting them as well as myself. If something happens to them, I'd be responsible." "There are those who would come with you, if you asked," she said. "You might need someone to watch your back." He smiled. "Perhaps you could come?" he joked. She cocked her head, squaring up to him. "Funny you should say that. I'm exactly who I had in mind." He stared at her, then quickly shook his head. "Oh no, out of the question, Jayet. You don't know what this man is like. Arcanon, he calls himself. He's very dangerous, ruthless. I'm not letting you risk yourself for me. I wouldn't be risking myself for you. I'd be risking myself for Chris. I should have stopped her the moment I saw her getting into that game, begging for a chair, making wild promises, and talking like she was something special. I saw all the signs, and I didn't do a thing to stop it from happening. I just went about my business." She ran a hand through her mop of white blonde hair. "Besides, I don't have anything else to do. I'm out of a job." "Rafe let you go?" "I quit. I had enough of working for Rafe and putting up with his constant badgering and groping and talking about how great he is. Believe me, Paxton, I've given this some thought. Anyway, that has nothing to do with why I'm here. You were seen coming back through the city and up the road, past the two roosters. I knew then you hadn't gotten Chris back, and I knew you wouldn't give up on her. So I thought maybe I could find a way to help." "Jayet, please don't say that. If you needed help, you would ask a man. If you did that, I would have to hurt you. Just listen a moment. For one thing, I can get into places where a man can't. For another,